What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. Today, March 5th, Tuesday evening, I'm going to be going over the 2024 NFL Combine winners and losers. We're going to open up NFL.com. They have a Combine tracker. I'm going to put the link in the description. I'll probably put it in the comments too if you guys want to check it out and play around and look at the other positions. But for this one, this is a fantasy football channel. We're going to look only at QB, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So I'm going to hop into a screen share and let's get right into the quarterbacks. And, it sucks not seeing guys like Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, even do any tests. We did get to see JJ McCarthy do a little bit. Drake May didn't really do much. So for quarterbacks, I'm not so sure that there's like a clear winner and loser. But what we'll do, we'll open up the dash and all these stats up here, and we'll kind of just look through each quarterback and kind of note some things here. But if there really wasn't a lot of guys that participated. So for quarterback, Kadon Slovis, 4.55, 40, cool. He's athletic. Sam Hartman, Austin Reed, Spencer Rattler. Nothing really to take from these guys. I don't know if there's a clear winner or loser based on these 40 times. Obviously, Spencer Rattler's is a little slow, 4.95. He's still the consensus QB7 or so. So we're not going to take anything away from this 40-yard dash where only 4 QBs and I think a field of 14 guys ran. The 10-yard split, again, just this showing off quickness and being able to maybe get away from sacks. Kadon Slovis, 1.58. Sam Hartman, athletic. Spencer Rattler, better here. Austin Reed, not so much here. So Slovis is proving to be athletic so far. The vert, you have Michael Pratt joining the party here, 36 inches with his vert. Joe Melton is huge. We'll talk about his arm, but 6'5", 235. Exciting player with a big arm. Overall, he's projecting to be a backup. And if you guys watched the combine, you saw some of his big, bomb throws. So not such a great processor accuracy, that kind of thing, but man's got a cannon. Otherwise, vertical jump, kind of whatever. Let's look at the broad jump here. Joe Milton jumping out everybody here. Again, only, these are all backup-ish quarterbacks that we're looking at here. Maybe Spencer Rattler could go the third round. Overall, nothing too crazy here. 3-cone drill. We did see JJ McCarthy go. And with Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb not performing, I guess the winner of the QBs, I think, would be JJ McCarthy. Now, he didn't do every drill, but he was thrown to the wide receivers and he looked good doing so. So a lot of people got to see him, make some good throws. And 6.82, man, he was well above the other 3 quarterbacks here in 3-cone drill. So JJ McCarthy, sneaky athleticism to his game here. And he's still so young and so raw. Didn't really have to show himself off too much. Playing in Michigan, of course, they had an elite defense, elite running game. They won so many games. But he measured in nice, 6'2", 220. Eventually will be a plus starter, so maybe someone drafts him and maybe we see him late in the 2024 season. But everything else looks pretty solid here. His production score, 84. Athleticism score is a 90. First ranked in the combine with athleticism and a total score of QB4. So I think if there's a QB winner, it probably is JJ McCarthy. He just basically had to show up and he looked like the best guy that was participating. 20-yard shuttle, Michael Pratt tied him at 4.23. And then bench press, anybody bench? No QB's bench. So there you go. I guess I will declare my QB winner as JJ McCarthy. As far as a loser, I don't really know if there's much of a loser. I know Bo Nix didn't play well at the Senior Bowl. He looked fine throwing the ball. So I'm going to go no losers for the QB. Now let's get to probably the meat of this video and probably why you're watching it, just looking at the running backs and wide receivers. But we're going to start with the running backs, and I guess I'll work my way backward. We'll start with the bench. No running back really to note of the bench, but Blake Corum, super strong, 27. Braylon Allen, 26 reps. Marshawn Lloyd, George Holani at Audric Estime. These are all your kind of tank backs, guys that can be the primary ball carrier on first and second down. I do want to look and see who is the weakest here. Frank Gore Jr., only 12. Kendall Milton, 18. Kamani Vidal, 18. So I'm not going to take too much away from the bench press, but Blake Corum, man, we know he's strong and sturdy. We know Braylon Allen, Marshawn Lloyd, Audric Estime. These guys are, bruising type running backs. So good notes on the bench press there. The 20-yard shuttle, Dylan Lobby. I don't know if it's Lob or Laub. I don't know. But New Hampshire running back here, he's a pass catching specialist, 4.02 with his 20-yard shuttle. And Tyrone Tracy, this is a name that to me is I'm going to call Tyrone Tracy a combine winner because he wasn't really on my radar, and then he's going to be at the top of a lot of these lists. So really fast back. He never really had a season where he was the main guy for Purdue, but he tested out very, very well this weekend. Let's look at his next year. 5'11", 209. I like running backs in that, that 210, 220 range here. Good height. And his prospect grade is 6.18. Good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. Production score was bad, 62. He didn't really get a lot of opportunities at Purdue, but he caught the ball pretty well. He actually had a lot of receptions in his time there. Athleticism score, though, he ranked fourth best. 86th overall grade. Total score is ranked 21st, but I like what we saw from him. His 40 time was fine, but I do like some of his splits. And yeah, he's a good looking prospect here. So someone on the deeper side of things, he's a guy. Yeah, you see Bilal Powell. He's probably going to have some relevance at some point. So I like Tyrone Tracy. Blake Corum with actually a really good 20-yard shuttle, 4.12. Kamani Vidal, 4.15. Isaac Garendo, we'll talk about him in a little bit, 4.15. Guys at the bottom of the shuttle here, Ray Davis. Davis is really short, 5'8", but he's built really thick. Davis, 4.51. He was the loser there in the 20. But let's move on to the three-cone drill. Three-cone running backs. There's Tyrone Tracy, Blake Corum. Okay, so Blake Corum's been at the top of the lists so far. So he's looking like a combine winner at the moment. Dylan Lobb, 6.84. We saw him at the top of the list. Isaac Garendo, another top 5 for him with 6.94. Kamani Vidal, George Halani here. And those are the only guys that did the three-cone drill. So it's looking good for those guys so far. Broad jump. I think we had a record set. I can't remember, but Jalen Wright might have set the combine record or tied it for the broad jump here. 11'2", and he is a super athletic running back. I think he could be somewhere along the Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara spectrum of running backs. He doesn't have as much. He doesn't have the experience being a pass catcher, but I think he can do it. Really elusive though, running back. He can make big plays happen out of nowhere. So Jalen Wright, 11'2" broad jump. There's Isaac Garendo, George Halani making some noise there. Audric Estime with a pretty good jump for a big man. Keelan Robinson, and then there's Tyrone Tracy again. So Wright's moving up my boards. He should be a top 3, top 4 running back in the draft. Isaac Garendo, man, making some noise here. Let's actually look at Garendo real quick, because we'll talk about his 40-yard dash coming up. We'll also talk about Jalen Wright's 40-yard dash. Let me just pause the volume. All right, 6'0", 220. So he's moving fast. Big dude, 6', 220. Good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. His production score, not so great, 64, but look at the athleticism score. He is the number 1 athletic back in this class, 99 score here. He's ranking as the 10th best running back. So 4.33, 40-yard dash, that's elite speed. 10-yard split was good. We like a lot of the numbers here. He's peaking in a lot of these numbers. So a guy that may not be as well known, but he's very athletic, and we're going to probably see him get a chance here at some point. But anyways, let's move on to the vertical. Vertical is not as important for running backs, but Garendo, top of the list. Tyrone Tracy, top of the list. Holani from Boise State keeps popping up here. We'll take a look here at George Holani and see what he's got to say. But I do think Jalen Wright, Audric Estime, a lot of these guys on the same list as we've seen before with the broad jump. So good legs from these guys. You like to see that. 5'10", 208 for Holani, 5.88 average backup or special teamer, but decent athletic score. Production score wasn't there. Total score wasn't quite there. But he's a guy that's really athletic. So we'll continue to monitor George Holani through the process here. But 10-yard split. Jaden Sheardon out of Monmouth, unknown player here. He's small but very fast. Keelan Robinson, another player here that I didn't really know too much about until he ran these 10-yard splits. Kendall Milton, Trey Benson with a really nice 10-yard split. Dylan Lobb, 1.52. Kamani Vidal, Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving. We haven't said Bucky Irving's name much in this here. Jalen Wright with not the best 10-yard split. And I'm looking for Blake Corum. So Blake Corum, the 10-yard split was one of the worst, but he did have one of the best 20 shuttles up there in bench, up there in three cone. So not sure why his 10-yard split. He might take a little bit while to get up to speed. That might be the issue. But we'll finish with the running backs on the 40-yard dash here. Isaac Garendo led the way, 4.33 speed. Jalen Wright, 4.38 speed. Trey Benson, I'm going to label Trey Benson as a winner here. He didn't have anything that was a red flag, I would say, from these numbers that we're looking at here. And the fact that he's one of the top, I mean, most people had him as, RB1, 2, or 3, and he ran a 4.39. His tape is really nice. He's got some breakaway speed. A lot. I think he's more of a gap runner than a zone runner, but I like Trey Benson a lot. People kind of say he's an upright runner, but he's got the body and the speed that I look for, and he can, do some stuff in the passing game. So Garendo, Jalen Wright, Trey Benson, all posting under 4.4 speed. Let's see. Anybody else stick out? Marshawn Lloyd, that's a pretty good time for a big guy. There's Tyrone Tracy's time. Blake Corum was fine, 4.53. Bucky Irving, though, I think we're going to label our first combine loser as Bucky Irving. For a guy that was supposed to be this fast little kind of scat back, 4.55, getting ran by Blake Corum is probably not where Bucky Brooks or Bucky Irving wanted to be. So I'm going to label him as our first combine loser. The volume, 5'9", 192. So he's under 200 pounds. So that's already a ding there. Good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. Now his production score was great. He had a great year at Oregon the last couple of years. Athleticism score is really bad though. Total score, he ranks as RB5. I think he's more of a 1B type kind of back. I heard Dion Lewis as a good comp for him. Dameon Pierce, I don't know if I see that. He's a little too small to be a Dameon Pierce comp, but think of him along in the way of like, those receiving type backups. I think Dion Lewis is a good comp for a guy like Bucky Irving. Isaiah Davis down here, 4.57. And then Audric Estime would be the other loser here. He had some really nice jumping drills, but his speed, 4.71, that's just not going to cut it. He needed to run something in the 4.6, the low 4.6s for him to be of service here. So Estime will label as a loser. I believe Cody Schrader got hurt in one of the drills. So to recap, winners, we're going to go with Jalen Wright, Trey Benson, Isaac Garendo. Blake Corum actually held up pretty well. I thought his testing looked fine here. He was okay in the 40. The other drills he did fine. Not the best 10-yard split, but Corum held his own. Let's move on to the wide receiver position, and we're going to start with the 40 in this one. He's the guy on the cover here. That's Xavier Worthy breaking the combine record, 4.21. And he's going to flirt with the first round of the NFL draft here in April. Now, I think he's clearly a combine winner because, one, he broke the 40-yard dash record. Like, you're going to get labeled as a winner if you do that. But my issues with Xavier Worthy, 5'11", height's fine, weighs $165. Very rare to see a productive receiver that small. And honestly, the receivers that we see running these blazing, 4.2 speeds, guys like John Ross, a couple other guys, I think Tyquan Thornton comes to mind. There's probably a handful of guys here, but usually not the best translative skill for the NFL. And just the fact that he's so small worries me a little bit. Good backup with the potential to develop into the starter. I kind of view Xavier Worthy as like your wide receiver 3 on an offense, a guy that's going to stretch the field, maybe do some special teams things every now and then. I don't think he's going to be an elite like breakout player. So to me, he's a round 2 pick. His production score is really solid. Athleticism score obviously hits through the roof, and the wide receiver combine rank is really dang good. But again, I'm just a little bit nervous about him. His player comp, Darnell Mooney. Are we taking Darnell Mooney at the end of the first round? Probably not. So he is a draft winner because he probably locked in a top 40 pick for himself, but I'm still skeptical of the overall potential outlook for him. Winners, I think, would be Brian Thomas and Adonai Mitchell. Now, these guys are pretty much the exact opposite of Xavier Worthy. Worthy, again, 5'11", 165. Brian Thomas running a 4.3340, and the dude weighs 40 more pounds. He's 209, 6'3". So he's got 4 inches and 40 pounds on the guy. He's only a tenth of the speed smaller. So he will become a good starter within 2 years. His production score was 7th. His athleticism score is 3rd best. Total score, he's a top 5 receiver. And I think for me, he's the wide receiver 4 in this class here. So Brian Thomas Jr., he's probably a top 20 pick. He might even be a top 15 pick by the time April rolls around. So Brian Thomas, one of the big winners at the combine. And then Adonai Mitchell, who if you watch his tape, and the way that I like to watch prospects is I watch their 4-minute highlight clip just to see what they do well, and then you watch the individual game tapes of these players. And Mitchell's highlight tape is really really fun. Now his game tape, you see some laziness and some tendencies for things, but dude's super athletic. He played at Georgia for a couple years. He didn't really have a lot of opportunities there. That's why he left. But 6'2", 205, basically the same time as Brian Thomas, almost the same size, just a little bit smaller, not by much though. Eventually will be a plus starter. Production score, not very productive. Again, we mentioned the 2 years at Georgia, but he's solid last year. Athleticism score, 4th best, total score 8th. I like AD Mitchell, and George Pickens is a pretty good comp for him, just because he's kind of wild. You don't know what you're going to get out of him every play. He can make some amazing highlight reel plays, but maybe his consistency is just not there every play. But dude's a baller. I think he's a first round lock now. Buffalo Bills maybe looking at a guy like Adonai Mitchell here with the first round pick. Devontae Walker, great time here for him. He's had his trouble, with UNC and suspension and things like that. But almost 6'2", 193, good size for a wide receiver here. Good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. So kind of a wide receiver 3 type, but really good scores here from Tez Walker. And his comp is Alec Pierce. I think he's a little bit better than Alec Pierce. But other receivers notable here, Jacob Cowing, small slot receiver. Roman Wilson was a winner here. Now, he doesn't have a lot of college production coming from Michigan, but he's really, really smooth. 5'11", 185. To me, watching his stuff kind of reminded me a little bit of Chris Olave. Eventually will be a plus starter. His college production score is not great, but decent athleticism, total score. He's more of a technician with his route running and his ability to get open. So Marvin Mims is the comp. I don't think he's quite Marvin Mims. I think Roman Wilson's a little bit more refined as a route runner. Ladd McConkey was a winner. He had an awesome gauntlet drill. And the gauntlet drill is when the receiver's running horizontally across the field and they're just getting pummeled with targets, from each side of the field. And the idea is to stay running straight down the line at a high speed. Ladd McConkey passed that. He looked like Puka Nacua a little bit in a way. Now, McConkey looking like a top 40 pick right now. I'd rather have Ladd McConkey over Xavier Worthy all day. He's going to be a productive receiver. And again, Georgia, they just didn't use these guys a lot. And Brock Bowers was the tight end 1 target there. So not a lot to go around. But I will say Ladd McConkey is probably a combine winner. He tested out really well. Xavier Legette, Troy Franklin. I'm going to say Troy Franklin's a combine loser. We'll talk more about that. But his 4.41 speed, underwhelming. And he weighed in at 176. I think he was listed at 185 at Oregon. So Franklin, and he didn't look good on the gauntlet drill either, where you're supposed to stay nice and tight on the line. He was weaving back and forth and just didn't really seem like he had good control. Ricky Pearsall, super athletic. Combine losers here down at the bottom. The big one's Keon Coleman, 4.61. We'll look at some more of his numbers here, but he just didn't pop in a lot of the, for him to be a freak athlete, that was the hype going into this. He just didn't really test very well. 4.61 speed. Of course, he doesn't really have the ability to get open. A guy that's 6'4", 220 something. He's going to struggle getting open at the next level with contest, and he's going to have a lot of contested catches. So he looked good in the gauntlet drill, though. I'll give him that. 10-yard split. Xavier Worthy, of course, Anthony Gold, Brian Thomas Jr. There's Roman Wilson, who I think, again, kind of like a Chris Olave. He gets open fast. Jalen Coker, Luke McCaffrey, Ladd McConkey, Adonai Mitchell, Rome Odunze. We didn't really talk about much about him, but I think Odunze is a winner in itself just because Harrison Jr. and Neighbors didn't go, so he was the top wide receiver there, and I think he held his own all weekend here. Other guys with low scores here. Troy Franklin, last. Not good. I think Troy Franklin, no longer a first-round pick, probably a day 2 pick. Vertical, Malik Washington, Jalen Coker, Ricky Pearsall, super athletic. Xavier Worthy, man. Devontae Walker, Xavier Legette, AD Mitchell down here. Now let's look at the bottom of the list. Jaquan Jackson, Jamari Thrash, Taj Washington, Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, Leadiatric Griffin, Ladd McConkey. Now, I was looking for Johnny Wilson, because he's 6'7", he's below average here at this jump. So someone that's so tall doesn't have as much juice in the legs to jump. And same with Keon Coleman, only 38 inches. You got guys that are 4 or 5 inches smaller than him, out jumping him by 4 or 5 inches. So that's some interesting notes there. Broad jump here, A.D. Mitchell, Devontae Walker. Ryan Flournoy is an interesting name out of Southeast Missouri State, and Xavier Worthy, super athletic. So you're kind of seeing the Texas receivers lit up the combine this weekend. Guys at the bottom of the list here, Brendan Rice didn't have a good combine. He might be labeled as a loser. He just didn't stick out really in anything. Odunze was kind of just average in a lot of these metrics. I think he's a better player on tape than he is in track contests. But Keon Coleman did fine here, 10'8" jump. 3-cone drill. Again, this is just speed to getting in and around cuts. Ricky Pearsall, really, really fun player to watch. Go check him out. Odunze performed well. This is the drill that Rome Odunze would be good at because of his cuts. And Franklin actually did pretty well in this one too. Guys at the bottom of the list, Thrash, Cowing, Griffin, but not everybody ran the 3-cone drill, so I don't know how important that is. The 20-yard shuttle, McCaffrey had some nice speed. Odunze, Pearsall, Johnny Wilson actually a nice 20 shuttle here. Again, not a lot of guys running these drills. Bench press, not really important for a receiver, but it's fun to look at. Aeneas Smith, Bub Means, Malik Washington putting up the most reps. And there you go. Wide receivers. Again, we will both Texas receivers won. I think Brian Thomas was a winner. I think Devontae Walker might have secured a second round, third round draft capital here. Roman Wilson, Ladd McConkey, these guys all tested very well. Losers, I'm going to say Troy Franklin. I'm going to say Keon Coleman. And anybody else to note here? Troy Franklin and Keon Coleman. All right, and then we're going to finish up with the tight ends here. Tight ends, not so much excitement here. Brock Bowers didn't really participate, so he would be the winner maybe. He won by not competing. But either way, the 40-yard dash, Devin Culp, tight end out of Washington, he might be lucky to get drafted. Theo Johnson, though, they flashed up a stat card, and he has nearly identical stats to Jimmy Graham. So height, weight, speeds, everything, Jimmy Graham. So Theo Johnson, the early winner here, being super athletic. Let's look at his profile real quick. 6'6", 60 pounds. Good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. He's going to probably be a day 3 guy, but his athleticism score through the roof. Total score ranks 4th. Production is tough for tight ends to have production, but yeah, he's got some really nice abilities here. So check him out. I think he's a guy that could develop into a nice option. Tanner McLaughlin, Jaheim Bell, Jared Wiley, Tip Ryman. Dallin Holker, not looking really good here, lowest speed. He was really productive at Colorado State, but I don't know if he's that good of a tight end or if he was just, getting fed targets. Jatavian Sanders, we're going to label him as a loser. He was supposed to be the tight end 2 coming into the class, and just a lot of these drills did not look all that great. And honestly, Cade Stover, man, he's the tight end 3. He didn't really have a top end speed here either, but I know it's not super important for tight ends, but it is something that I look into. 10-yard split, Devin Culp, Tip Raymond, Theo Johnson, Tanner McLaughlin, Jaheim Bell. Sanders was better in this one, so was Stover, but again, middle of the field, these guys didn't pop off in anything. Vertical, Ben Sinnott, Theo Johnson, Jared Wiley, again, Cade Stover, and Sanders did not do this drill. So it looks like Theo Johnson kind of looking like the tight end winner so far here. Broad jump, Ben Sinnott. And I'm doing a lot of work right now on the fantasy QB, running back, tight end, receiver positions, and I'm going to have a draft guide out for you guys in April. But Ben Sinnott is a tight end that you guys should get to know. I think he didn't really run very fast, but he tested very athletically. Let's actually look at his numbers. Sinnott out of Kansas State, Theo Johnson, broad jumping at the gym. Let's see who else down here. Cade Stover, not a good jumper. These guys kind of lacking the athleticism that we're looking for. 3-cone drill, Sinnott, Holker, Raymond, Theo Johnson, 20 shuttle. Let's look at this Ben Sinnott real quick. 6'4", 250, average or backup, special teamer. But production score, athleticism, and total score, he ranked really, really strongly. So I think he's an interesting player. He's probably a day 3 pick, but he could be a potential difference maker at tight end someday. 20 shuttle, of course, Theo Johnson, Dallin Holker. Holker's better in these shuttles than long speed. Ben Sinnott, Jatavian Sanders, not so well. And then the bench press. So these guys bench. Tipper Raymond bench 28 pounds. So Raymond's fun. He's going to be, inline blocking kind of tight end that can kind of make some plays every now and then. So tight end winners and losers, we're going to go with Theo Johnson. Jaheim Bell actually played well. And I'll go Ben Sinnott. Losers, Jatavian Sanders. So there you have it, the winners and losers from the 2024 NFL Combine. Let me know what you guys think. If I missed anybody, I know, again, not everybody played at the Combine. QBs, a couple of receivers out, some of the Bowers, we missed a lot of the first round prospects that we were hoping to see, but I think that's a good representation of what we're expecting to see in April. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you guys are new. We'll see you next time. Peace.